And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Dan-A-Plooza. My guest at this time is DonnaJean Phillips. She is the host of the podcast, DonnaJean's Coffee House of Horror. You could follow that on the YouTube channel of Nerdbox. Also, check out for the spooky and Halloween season their Follow 31 Days on their YouTube channel. Donna, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And since we are now in the Halloween season, I have to ask, is there a specific Halloween or franchise movie that you do adore this time of year?
Oh, gosh. You know, I'm actually one of those kind of horror geek nerds that that takes Halloween with me all year long. So yes and no, because I tend to watch them all year long. I do have a couple of favorites that when it's the season, it's like, okay, we have to play this now.
Right.
I have a couple, one of them, and this is actually kind of cool because I just met Quinn Lord for the second time at a Monster Mania that I was volunteering at. So trick or treat. And that's just such a perfect 'tis the season kind of thing.
Yes.
And then one that has always been a little bit controversial, but I've always loved it, and that's Halloween Season of the Witch.
Ah, yes.
Happy,
Tom
happy
Atkins.
Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. So, you know, all of those films like that, there are, while I do very much love the first Halloween,
right.
To me, it's kind of these newer ones that I really think about watching.
Right.
So there, and then I'm kind of big on the Terrifier thing. And in fact, Nerdbox, I call my show, DonnaJean's Coffee House of Horror, a room in the house of Nerdbox. And Nerdbox is making October, as well as the Follow 31 Days of Halloween Terrifier month. I did an interview with the cast and crew of Terrifier 2 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
When we still thought it was going to come out that year.
Yes.
And of course it's out now, and I'm going to see it tonight.
There you go.
And I just did kind of a little bit of a live chat with Felissa Rose and one of the producers, Steve, who I forget his last name right now. So I've got my Terrifier shirt on, but Terrifier has kind of fallen into that Halloween movie theme for me of, the last couple years anyway.
Oh yeah. I know for myself, some of my favorite Halloween movies, obviously Nightmare Before Christmas. It's the Halloween and Christmas movie.
Exactly.
I really enjoy Jack Skellington and Sally and the mayor and all those wonderful characters. I also, the new series I'm stuck on now that just started is the Chucky series. So I'm all about that right now. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on USA and Sci-Fi right now.
I haven't seen it. I've seen that it's there. I just haven't had the time to check it out yet. So
it's definitely good. I think it's amazing that Brad Dourif is still doing the voice from I remember when the first one came out in the 80s.
I have a little bit of a funny story about Brad Dourif.
Okay.
Not long ago, he and his daughter Fiona were at Monster Mania, and I volunteer at all the Monster Manias. It's my home con, so it's
a wonderful convention.
My home away from home. And they were there, and there was, of course, they needed the plastic barrier for the photo ops. And a lot of people were concerned and said how unhappy he looked. And somebody ended up asking his daughter, is he having a bad time because of the concern about COVID? And she said, no, how he's looking is just his face. That's just his face. And oh my gosh, it was so hilarious. And actually, when I did have a chance to meet him, he was so kind and so gracious. And he even told me that he would take down his masks for selfies. He
Oh
didn't
yeah.
want to be touched, but he said he holds his breath. So
Oh
here's
yeah.
this very gracious person that's holding his breath so he can do photos with people,
Yeah.
and I just thought that was awesome.
Yes, I haven't had a chance to meet him, but I enjoy his work from Chucky to. I am even a big fan of his role in Lord of the Rings.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Let's not
Yes,
forget One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
I just watched that. He's just an amazing actor, and I think we're
Yeah.
lucky to
Oh,
have
he
him.
is. I agree totally.
And Sleepaway Camp is another go-to.
Speaking of me just talking to Felissa Rose.
Yeah. So, but probably the one I watch the most is Hocus Pocus.
It's just a fun group of films this time of year.
Oh, definitely. I
do like, and it's not necessarily a Halloween based movie,
Mhm.
but it is one that seems to come up. And I know it's another one of those people love it or hate it, but I happen to be in the love it camp, is Jason Goes to Hell.
Yes.
Anna Marcus, you rule.
Definitely. That's a great movie.
It is.
I know one that I just ordered that I'm going to watch is and I like Tom Atkins, as you mentioned in Season of the Witch.
Yeah.
Is Night of the Creeps.
I love that movie. That is
yes, it's a good one.
I actually have a T-shirt on with just Tom Atkins' face that says "Thrill Me."
Yes, I love that. And I love it Miller Time, and I just love all the little catchphrases.
Awesome.
And with going to conventions, have you had a chance? I've met Tom Atkins. Have you had a chance to meet Tom Atkins?
I have a couple of times, actually. I have.
He's a wonderful gentleman.
Yeah, it's been a delight every time I've had a chance to meet him. I think I've met him 3 times.
Yeah, the first time I met him, he had a Christmas tie on. That's the first time that I met him.
He has such a sense of humor.
He does.
So.
And I might have the same shirt as you. My shirt says "Thrill Me" as well, that I bought from Tom.
And yeah, it has to be, because I did buy it directly from him. So it has to be the same shirt.
Oh, yeah. Such a brilliant actor.
He is. He's just great.
We have people watching. I'm sorry I can't recognize your name, Facebook user, but thank you for saying good evening.
Hey, user.
Yes. And thank you, Michael Machung. I will fist bump you because you fist bumped me. So there you go, Michael. Michael is one of our previous guests, and he's an artist, and he just came out with a novel. So
cool.
Yep.
My daughter is an illustrator, so anytime I can support
awesome.
artists, I'm going to do it. So.
Yep. When the whole COVID hit, were you kind of like impacted as far as like your well, I know you were impacted for your conventions, but was your podcast like impacted? Did you do more or less when COVID first started?
Interestingly, my podcast actually started because of COVID. I had worked at a con, and I was working with Nathan Basil at the Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon table.
Okay.
And I just loved hearing the things that Nathan and people talking to him came up about. And then, of course, you're spending the whole weekend with people when you're working as their handler.
Oh, yes.
So I just said to him, just kind of without really planning it, like, I love hearing what you're talking to people about Leslie Vernon. Would you mind if I did an interview with you? And he's like, oh, we can do that. And so that next morning, I brought him a big cup of coffee. Right. At that same convention, I first met Quinn Lord, David Howard Thornton, and Felissa Rose. And I did interviews with Felissa Rose and David Howard Thornton. And every time I did, I went and I brought him a big coffee. So going on a little bit of time, and surprisingly to me, a lot of people came back with, "You're really good at this." And I know that I am a people person. So talking to people and wanting to know more about them is kind of my nature. So just having somebody film it wasn't a big deal, because it was really just like a conversation I would have had with them. And then when COVID happened, I had gotten to know a lot of indie filmmakers, some managers, some actors. So my editor on Nerdbox was also the one behind a number of the shows there. David Partenio and I just said, you know what, why don't we try to do watch parties during COVID? Because at that point, we're thinking COVID's going to be 6 months.
Right.
So we said, why don't we just start doing watch parties, and maybe I can start to interview the people who recommend some of the movies. So I had some filmmakers involved. They introduced the movie. Dave Hagen, Billy Middlestead, some of the different convention owners. They'd introduce the movie. We played the movie, do the watch party. I even had asked and had Kane Hodder introduce the Hatchet movies.
Awesome.
Unfortunately, at that point, we were only a couple of minutes into the first Hatchet movie when Facebook shut us down.
Oh, yeah.
The nudity and the violence.
Oh,
so
yes.
we then discovered, oh man, we can't do this on Facebook.
Right.
So I started doing interviews with people before I had a podcast and just sharing them on Facebook, just to get us through that couple of months of COVID. Well, then COVID didn't stop.
Right.
So David and I then, we got in touch with his amazing and wonderful wife, Jennifer, who is a combination of like a sister and like a daughter to me, depending on what's going on and me being worried about her and loving her. And also their son, Noah, who also was the other handler at the Leslie Vernon box with Angela.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I mentioned Marcus McGill. We all got together and we started doing these interviews, and then it grew. And David, being kind of really the computer savvy person that I am in no way, he ended up being able to build the YouTube channel. And at this point, I know he's on a big, we're on a big thing to get 5,000 subscribers now. And when we do, I kind of have a list. When we get the 5,000 subscribers, I guess the 5,000th, see if I can find it. I think it gets a box of Scream. Let me see if I can find it here. Okay. The 5,000th subscriber, they'll be giving away a signed box of Scream cereal signed by Matt Lilliard and David Arquette. So go on over to Nerdbox and sign up. You can get that. But really, that's kind of how COVID was actually the genesis of my show.
Mm-hmm.
Was part of that happening. I'm sorry, I'm very long-winded in answering your question. It wasn't a straightforward yes or no kind of answer.
Definitely. So everyone, to make sure that you follow again Nerdbox, and make sure to subscribe. And it could be your lucky day. You could be eating out of that cereal box, and you could watch scary movies and even watch the new Scream movie. So but I think that that's great and wonderful for you. I also developed the podcast we're on during COVID right now, because I had missed people and I had always wanted a talk show. So this happened as a result of COVID. So
some good things did come out of it.
Yes, it did. Do you have any favorite lines within horror movies? Like any favorite catchphrases or lines from maybe some of your favorite characters?
I probably do, but they're probably just things that come out in my normal speech, and none of them are coming. Of course, like everybody, if you're doing something and there's reason to say, you say, "Hail to the king, baby,"
Yeah.
but but I'm not really sure if there are other things. There probably are.
Definitely. I think, oh, what another glorious morning when I don't really want to go
Exactly.
and get up. And when maybe I'm giving something to do, or someone hands me this or object, and I feel like, what's this? Like Jack Skellington.
Exactly.
So I feel like those are good
I do
examples.
say, and it's always nice when somebody understands it. But when you say, "Welcome to Fright Night," for real,
Oh yeah.
it's always kind of nice to just kind of throw that in.
Definitely. Now, and I had just I watched that movie not too long ago, Fright Night.
I love that movie so much.
It's a great movie. Did you feel like it was kind of like um way different when they made the second Fright Night? Like it didn't have the same vibe maybe as the original.
Yeah, I think I actually only really, do you mean the remake?
Yeah.
Oh, honestly, it was so different that
Oh
I
yeah.
couldn't even, I really couldn't compare them because it was so different. I mean, he was a vampire, but it was more like he was like a serial killer vampire, not like a
Yes.
suave, debonair vampire. I did think David Tennant was the best part of that movie as Peter Vincent.
Agreed.
Well, first of all, I love David Tennant, but he brought a humor to that
role, yeah.
that worked for me, but I definitely, I would not say that the remake was up there as a fine piece of film. The way that I really do love the first. The first is such a classic.
It
And I
is.
think, unfortunately, the one part for me that was really missing was that kind of nurturing relationship that Evil Ed seemed to find, the acceptance that he seemed to find
Oh yes.
from the vampire. And it had for a second in the second one, but not to the degree that it really was in the first one, that you felt like he was such an outcast that when he felt the vampire wanted him,
Right.
like he was seduced by that, whereas the second it was just kind of like, okay, but it wasn't really there for me, So.
Yeah. I felt like it worked for like the time frame we in now, but it was definitely two different movies. But
Yeah.
I'm normally a fan where I just say stick with the classics. I don't always need a reboot, remake.
Yeah, I'm actually like that too. In fact, quite often I won't even watch a remake.
Yeah.
People ask me what I thought of it, and I'll just be like, well, I don't want to find myself sitting and comparing it to the first one. And I have to admit, I'm such a Stephen King fan that when they make one of his films, like I'll be comparing them to the books,
Exactly.
And sometimes you can lose something if you keep doing that,
Yeah. It was kind of hard when they made Stephen King it, because I had read the book, and then I loved the miniseries, and then when the new one came out, I'm like, this is, I want it to be like
it ended up being really good though. I was concerned about how they weren't going to do them in different chapters, the adult and the children.
Oh yes.
But the way they did it worked. So.
Definitely. Yeah, it did. And I like that it fits now, kind of like in the time frame,
Right.
So it's
agree.
definitely a good one. I watched the interview where I guess Bill Skarsgård, where he had a lot of problems after he was done with the role. And he kind of had to like decompress, and I think, have somebody to talk to get out of that character.
I can see that. I could see that.
So,
oops. Sorry about my little glucose monitor alarms there.
So what is it that you like most about Terrifier and art?
It's going to sound funny, but when I first saw it, I was kind of like, wow, man, I don't know. some of that was kind of heavy and hard to handle. It was so violent.
Definitely.
And then when I met David and Damien, they were so nice and so wonderful. And Dave, the first interview I did with David, he made chipmunk sounds. And it was just like, oh my gosh, I love these two as human beings. So when I rewatched it, I saw Art with a different perspective.
Yes.
I'm also very much looking forward to the second one, having done the interview with the cast and crew, but also just from everything that you've seen prior to that. Not only is there going to be more of a story about Art, but the final girl, played by Lauren Lavera, I think is going to just be something all completely new about Final Girls. Like, it's going to be, from what I just spoke to Felissa about, it's going to be much as Selena's story, the Final Girls story, as much as Art's story. And that I'm really excited about seeing.
Definitely. I feel like it'll be really good. I haven't met David yet, but I know he's booked for the convention Horror Realm right around my birthday. So.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Where is Horror Realm and when?
Horror Realm Con is in Pittsburgh, PA. It's kind of like it's in Pittsburgh, but it's like right before you get all the busy part, like in
I've worked at the Living Dead weekend at Monroeville, so I know where that is. So
it's and it always falls on my birthday. It's always like March, 4th through 6th, or 3 through 5, and my birthday's on the 4th. So
mine's the 15th. And Monster Mania is actually going to be the weekend right before my birthday. So my birthday, I'm also going to be celebrating at a convention. So
is it March 15th or April?
It's March 15th.
Okay, very cool.
March babies.
Yes. But yeah, I've never met him, so he'll be there. I know that who else? Because they've announced like quite a few other. Darcy DeMoss.
Oh, cool.
She'll be there.
Living, what's that? Bruce Campbell.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And then I know that what was it? That they've added some other people. They have one of the adult people from It.
Okay, cool.
Who played Stanley, the adult version of Stanley. And
nice.
He was also in John Carpenter's The Thing. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's actually, if asked, if I could only name one movie as a favorite movie, I would have to say John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh wow, yeah, such a good movie.
Classic. It's got everything.
Oh yeah, it's popular. Like, it's such a part of pop culture. I always see that somebody will try to do a monster thing in reference to The Thing.
Yeah.
So I also learned I was watching an interview the other day for John Carpenter's Halloween, and I guess they ran out of money to make the music for that movie. So I didn't know that he collaborated with his dad, and that's that big underscore of
that's cool,
of them playing the music and the car chase and everything like that.
Yeah.
And it was heard from that, and then I think also in the interview was Tony Moran.
Tony Moran is so awesome. I absolutely love Tony Moran. I love you, Tony. He's just the bomb to hang out with, to work with at a convention too.
He'll be there too. Tony will be there.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to meet Tony, but he'll be there, so I'll have to say hello.
Yeah, please do. He's just so great.
But it is definitely a good time, and I have been to Monster Mania once in Hunt Valley, Maryland. I went in 2019 before COVID.
Okay, that was I know there was like times too that we were like, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? I actually, Hunt Valley that show is my favorite convention of all of them. And
Oh, wow.
it's also
Yeah.
the closest,
Where you live?
well, almost the closest for me. But
Oh, yeah.
but I just love that show. In fact, we just had one 2 weekends ago at Hunt Valley.
I saw that's when I was in Williamsburg. Yeah. I had seen the pictures of that. Are you going to go to the one in Oaks, PA, or is that way too far?
I'll be there. Nope,
Oh,
that's a good distance for me too. In fact, it was just announced today that Damien and David Howard Thornton will be in Oaks.
awesome.
So yeah, and they're going to do a Nightmare on Elm Street
reunion. I
Dream
saw
Warriors
that.
reunion.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun.
Have you met any of the Dream Warriors before? Because I saw.
Yeah, I've actually I've met Ken Sagos a couple of times. I hope
wonderful guy.
Of course, I've met Robert Englund a number of times. So
oh yes,
it's going to be
hilarious.
and so intelligent, and
he
so like people will complain they're waiting for 3 hours to meet him, but he really pays attention to people. He talks.
Oh
to
yes.
them, you know, yeah, he's great.
I've met Ken Sagos. I've also met Brooke Thighs. She
Nice.
was the bug girl and the fourth one.
The bug girl.
Yeah, the bug girl. Yeah. But I haven't met Heather Langenkamp yet.
Oh my gosh! Some years ago, Heather was at a Comic-Con in Philly, which is a couple hours for me. So I went to this Comic-Con, and they had as part of the ticket that you could buy this horror add-on. And part of what the horror add-on was Heather emceeing over the movie.
Awesome.
And I'm pretty sure it was the Dream Warriors that she was emceeing over it when it was playing. And that was just so fabulous. And that was at some kind of like a little punk club, like a block or two that you walked to from where the convention was. It was just such a fun experience. That was so awesome.
My favorite Dream Warrior is Ken Sagos. That's my favorite Dream Warrior.
He's
Kincaid.
Fantastic. He does. I mean, he does a lot of charitable work, and things.
Oh, he does.
Like that.
And he has his book out.
Yeah, such a human being. So
definitely. So that's definitely a good series. Is there anything else you'd like to say or promote on Dan-A-Plooza?
Well, we've talked a lot about our show, but if I could just do a throw out that on my show, DonnaJean's Coffee House of Horror, which has become the Coffee House of Horror because the first interviews I ever did, I brought coffee to everybody, and that's how that happened. Is that I also have a group on Facebook that a lot of the people I've interviewed are parts of that group, but a lot of people will also share. Like I do deal with a lot of indie actors and indie filmmakers. So if they're looking for an actor, they'll post something about it in there, or I will for them. So if any of you guys out there want to join the Coffee House of Horror, look me up and I'll be there.
You're more than welcome to enjoy. So please go ahead and follow that Facebook page. Make sure to follow the Nerd Box on the YouTube channel. Watch Donna's amazing interviews and make sure to celebrate the 31 days of Halloween, the spooky season. I'd like to thank my guest. And make sure to also support Terrifier 2 and check that out. And I'd like to thank my guest, DonnaJean, for being on Dan-A-Plooza. Everyone, thank you for the wonderful comments and watching. I will be back in half an hour with my next guest, Lily 6. Everyone take care and have a good night.